Welcome to the Strong, Single and Human podcast, a real look at single parenting, how to navigate the ups and downs of life with kids on your own while keeping sane. We cover all manner of subjects from domestic violence, dealing with childhood trauma, through to fussy eaters and how to help your kids become resilient. I'm your host, Claire Martin. Welcome. This week's guest, DellaRatta, is considered by many to be one of the finest singer-pianists performing today, and one of only a handful of jazz artists who can make a successful musical presentation to a large audience without having to abandon the true art form of jazz. Through his lifelong endeavour to help people advance to their highest potential through jazz, as well as spreading peace worldwide through his Jazz for Peace World Tour, Rick is considered to be an innovator and a visionary. So why have we got Rick on our podcast? Well, Rick believes the study and performance of music not only stimulates the intellect, but it has a historical proven ability to have a profound positive effect on a child's life. He wants to play a part in introducing children to the world's greatest art form, as well as bringing live music and music programs back to schools. This is the Strong, Single and Human podcast. Hi, Rick. Hi. Welcome to the podcast. Thanks for coming on board.
Claire, I'm so delighted to be here.
No, I can't wait for our conversation because I don't think I've ever had, I have never had a professional jazz musician on the podcast, right? And you're doing so many good things.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you. Much appreciated. Glad to be here.
No, so look, Rick, tell us a little bit about who you are. I know I've introduced you as a professional jazz musician, but there's so much to you, and like what you're doing, and where you are. Because are you in New York?
Yes. So my name is Rick DellaRatta. I'm a jazz pianist, singer, composer, but I'm also the founder of Jazz for Peace, which I started on the morning of 9/11. Right here in New York when I was watching those wild and crazy events from my rooftop. So I started as a poem, and it just developed into a lot of things which have enabled me to kind of fulfill my dreams of bringing music to around the world to help outstanding causes, to do educational programs for kids, music instrument donations, things of that nature. And one of the things I love to do and I've loved to do around the world, is interact with kids. They love music, and I don't know what it is. I think they also love to know that somebody cares for them. And I think they love when someone comes in outside the school. I don't know. It was special to me when I was a kid, and I want to bring that special feeling that was brought to me by these guys that would show up and do their little thing for me when I was a kid. And I would say, wow, he does that. That's what he does, man. Maybe I could do something like that when I grew up, or maybe I can have, that looks like a fun type of thing to do, or whatever they thought, but I know what I thought. I was like, wow, that sounds like a big deal. And just, show that we're on their side. We care for them. We look up to them. We look forward to they're our future, and they mean something, and they're important. And kids just love to know that we feel that way about them, or especially that somebody feels that way about them. So what I do when I go into schools is I do often I'll do like a historical thing, going through the different eras of jazz to show kids what New Orleans, how it started in New Orleans, then it moved to the bebop era, then it got involved in movies and film, and then it, became a part of our culture and all that kind of stuff. And then came, musicians like us who now are trying to put their stamp. So I'll do a little bit of that now. I'll play a song from maybe the old 1940s or something. It was recorded by Etta James. It's called Sunday Kind of Love. I'll do a little bit of that. And then I'll go into something that I just going to make up. It's free improvisation. I call it free JA. Then after first
free JA. Now, is there another meaning to free JA?
So I'll give you 3 guesses, but you know what I mean. So yeah, somebody I want.
Okay. Is it a famous, is it an infamous Australian maybe?
So somebody we do want to free. I mean, it's about Jazz for Peace, really standing up for things like freedom of speech, journalistic integrity. We want journalists to write about what they see. We don't want them to be attacked for writing about it. And we don't want anyone dropping any bombs. These countries want a war with themselves. That's up to them, but don't harm the civilians. So in that way, I get to play this thing called Free JA, which really comes from Haiti, because I did a concert in Haiti and they had a big sign that said, "Welcome Jazz for Peace, JASS." And that's because it's their word. It's a Creole word and it's called jazz, JASS. And that's where they came from, from Ghana to Haiti to New Orleans, where they were calling the music jazz as it was evolving. But it's their word, Creole word, JSS.
Wow.
Then we misspelled it JAZZ. So I took the S's off, took the Z's off. Now I have free JA, and it's going to be new. I'm going to make it up as I go along. It's part of an era called free jazz, where musicians in New York would get together and spontaneously improvise. So in other words, I'm going to do something that's a song that people would know of back in the day, and then I'm going to go into something that no one's ever heard, especially me. I don't know what I'm going to do, so we'll soon find out.
And this is what you do for the kids, is it? This is what you go into schools and you actually sort of do this sort of thing for the children.
Yeah. I take them to different eras of jazz.
No, because music is so important in our lives, right? Like, it can make you happy, sad. It can bring people together, it's such a, I feel like music as a human being, right? Doesn't matter what color you are, what religion you are, anything like that. As a human being, music is universal, right? It's something that's in our body, in our spirit, that just wakes us up.
It cuts through all boundaries, whether it's language, religion, creed, every kind of boundary that it can, that it breaks through all boundaries, and it has a long history of uniting people in a positive way and also having a profoundly positive effect on people. So it just, and we need, we need to make it a part of kids' lives, not just, music as, an accompaniment to their cartoon, but the actual, arts and culture in general, the arts and culture. So this is a little bit of the American art form of jazz, which I will attempt.
Yeah.
Oh, great.
Oh, great.
I want a Sunday kind of love. The last past Saturday and night. I'd like to know it's more than love at first sight. On a Sunday kind of love. I do my Sunday dreaming and all my Sunday scheming, every minute, every hour, every day. I'm hoping to discover a certain kind of lover who will show me the way. My arms need drive on a Sunday kind of love.
Wow. That's amazing. Fantastic. Thank you for that. That's awesome. So you just went from a song that was originally broadcast, published, recorded.
Yeah. An old standard. What would they call that? A chestnut. They have little terms for that. An old standard is what we call it, a jazz standard.
A jazz standard. And then you went into your own
I just
piece.
Made that completely up. It will whatever you heard, it can never be played again because I don't know what it was. I made it up completely from, you know what? It's a part of the time of day. It's a part of you being where you are, our vibe, our thing. Every little nuance plays into what I just did, and I could never repeat it. If somebody wants to hear this, they got to come to your show and hear.
Well, they've got to record it.
They got to come to your podcast and hear it if they want to. Yeah, and people do. Sometimes they'll go to different.
Oh, really?
Yes. What I try to do is try to get people to your podcast. Wow, she's doing something interesting with kids and education, and then somebody else. Oh, they're doing something with perceptions in the UK. So different things. So hopefully the different people can find out about each other.
Yeah, no, exactly. And it's just awesome because, well, that just came from you, right?
Yeah,
at the end of the day, it came from your fingers and your heart, basically.
You're right. And it just comes out of it comes through me, kind of. I try to let it come through me. I'm hoping that it's some sort of a collection of all my experiences, my journey, whatever it was. I try to just keep everything, different countries I've been to, different places I've played, different things I've done, and then just keep the funnel open and just see what comes through the spigot. I just turn it on and see what happens.
Yeah, no, exactly. But Rick, a question I've got, and when you were playing all of that, and it's beautiful, it's fantastic, right? But why jazz for you, right? Why not classical music? Why not rock, right? Why jazz? Why did you pick jazz, and how did you pick jazz?
A lot of people have asked that exact question, and it's a great question because, when I decided I wanted to be a musician, really, I wasn't listening to jazz. I didn't know what jazz was. I didn't find out what jazz was till I was maybe a teenager, and it was kind of by accident. I was in a library, and I was like, what's this? And I opened some big giant drawer and saw all these records. I'm like, what the heck, So it was just, I was I was very happy with the music on the radio and my classical lessons that I, had to take because I was messing around with the piano so much. My parents was like, "Hey, kid, you gotta study this." So, I was okay with it. But then when I found out about jazz, I was like, "Oh man, I can't, I can't tiptoe around this. It's too big." You know what I mean? This is like something this is something substantial, and I've got to get to the bottom of it, of which I didn't know was bottomless, but I wanted to get to the bottom of it. But not only that, what I noticed as I went along with jazz is that it had many of our greatest qualities as human beings and as a species. Now, music does in general, don't get me wrong, but with jazz, it was relating to the improvisational side with me. So I love the creativity involved with jazz. You understand? The feelings of freedom that you can get. I mean, as you saw, I could literally play anything I wanted just now. The freedom, right? The expression of freedom, the creativity, the intellectuality, it's the challenges you intellectually, emotionally. There's humanity.
Yeah, you're not just plonking on a keyboard, are you? You're not just like, because I know some people out there, God love them, but when it comes to jazz, they go, oh, they're just plonking on a keyboard and just playing any old thing, right? But it's technical, right? And it's from your heart, and jazz takes many, many forms.
We'll see.
It's not just, oh, this is jazz. Like, it's many things.
First of all, it's many things. So you're absolutely right. One time I had a couple of old people, very old people, they came up to me and they said, now they didn't really know my music. They just knew I was a jazz musician. I got to tell you something. We don't like jazz. And I said, oh, really? I said, well, now I knew they were older. I said, well, do you like Artie Shaw? And they said, oh, we love Artie Shaw. Oh, okay. Because I had played with the Artie Shaw band. This was an orchestra, old time music. And I'm like, well, do you like Louis Armstrong? Louis Armstrong? We love that. Oh, well, do you like, Benny Goodman, Frank? We love. I said, well, then I'm sorry to tell you, but you like jazz. That's a part of the jazz. That's a part of jazz. And I'm so sorry, but to have to tell you, but you do like it. You might not like certain styles or whatever. But see, what I try to do here, and what I also try to do with the kids, is rather than just go flying into my own thing, you know what I mean? It might work, it might not, it might work, I don't know. But I've noticed that this works, right? Where I lure them in with something familiar and comfortable and, you know what I mean? I mean, listen, I can do it with a Beatles song. I did it on a podcast with an Elvis song. I played an Elvis.
Really?
Yeah, I did Elvis Presley. The Ghetto. You know that song In the Ghetto? I played in.
Oh, wow.
I played in The Ghetto by Elvis Presley, and then I went into the jazz from there. But the whole point is I take them from a point of reference and comfort, and now they're in my world. So it's up, instead of making it difficult for them, I kind of make them in. Now it's hard for them it's made me hard to get for them to get out at this point because I've got them so comfortable, and now they're able to follow what I'm doing. And, the thing about a lot of jazz, if you're really able to listen to it, that's when it's phenomenal. I'll tell you something interesting. I've had many people that don't understand anything about jazz say they don't like it. They don't understand it. Now, I can tell it flies right over their head. They don't understand anything. I have never once have I had a person who had, trained their ear and listened a lot and really immersed and really understood what was going on. Never had one of them say they don't like. Never happens. So part of the reason is they don't understand it. And what I'm trying to do is throw that all out the window. I don't care whether you understand it or not. I'm going to try and hold your attention. And if I hold your attention and I play something of substance, hopefully you're going to react the way you just did. That's my strategy. Because I could tell you followed it, right?
Well, it's music, isn't it? Well, yeah. And the thing is, it's music, right? So it's a bit like tasting. Well, no, I don't know what it's a bit, because it's like in music. You like it. and there were elements I didn't understand you playing. And then there was other elements I was like, wow, this is awesome. I could see how it all fitted together, and then could hear you getting towards the end and playing on it. I'm not technical. I have got no jazz bones in my body, right? But I know what I like, and I liked what you were playing. So that's awesome. And like we've got jazz clubs in Melbourne. So anybody who wants to go and experience jazz, there's the Black Cat in Melbourne. It's a jazz club, little jazz. We should get you over, Rick. You could come and play at the Black Cat if it's still open. But, we've got jazz clubs in Melbourne that I've been to, and they do jazz and the blues clubs. And, it's awesome. And they're packed with people because, they're in there just enjoying music. It doesn't matter whether it's jazz or whatever. But, I personally think that music should be challenging. It shouldn't be only what you understand. I mean, to me, if it challenges you, that's a good thing. You know what I mean? Because I know myself, as I was listening to jazz, there was a lot of it. I would understand this, I wouldn't understand that, but then I would develop the understanding by not, you have to start somewhere. You have to not understand it to understand it. You know what I mean? There's a learning curve. Yeah. And jazz is a little bit maybe more complicated than mainstream. Right. But tell me about these. So you go into schools and you play and educate children around music and jazz and various different other things. But you also, you mentioned earlier, you also have a music program where you give instruments. Tell me about all of that, because that's awesome. So what we did when we started Jazz for Peace, we decided to have 3 missions. One was the benefit concert series where we do events for outstanding causes. Another one is a musical instrument donation program where we donate instruments to underprivileged youth and even adults. I mean, to me, a music is a weapon of goodness. You know what I mean? It's I want you to fire. I'm going to give you a musical instrument, and you can fire that at people. You know what I mean? Because yeah. So it stimulates the intellect. It can mean so much to a kid. It can mean so much to an adult, even. And basically, what it is people will donate instruments to us, and then we have to fix them up. Once we fix them up, we can donate it to somebody else. And sometimes people call, hey, I've got this giant piano. Well, we can't accept a piano, but here's what we can do. Where are you located? What's the zip code? What's the, give us the vicinity. We'll try to find somebody in that region, and they'll come and get the piano. Wow. Okay, so people just donate instruments to you. Can they donate money to you as well to buy instruments to get to? Yes. Can they do that? You can go to jazzforpeace.org. The easiest way to participate with Jazz for Peace, of course, always the easiest way. Go to jazzforpeace.org, scroll down to the bottom, and you'll just see a little donate button. And if you want, you can drink one less cup of coffee and donate that money to us, whatever. That would be fantastic. You could even say it's for the music instrument, or you could say it's for the schools or for the benefit concert series, whatever you want to do. But, that's the easy way. And then, of course, our favorite way is when people actually participate. We love it because we know how they feel when they actually participate, because they tell us, they write to us, and we have a page. It's actually a WordPress page. It's jazzforpeace.wordpress.com, and then /about. And that link is it's so long, you'll never get to the bottom. It hundreds is. And hundreds of testimonials from concerts all over the world from the actual organizations themselves, mile long, and we just tell people, if you want to read it, you'll never read it. But what you can do is just go bring, how I do on Wheel of Fortune, spin the wheel. Just try to go bring like that, and just bring, and then just stop on one and read that. Read a handful of them randomly, because otherwise it's, like I said, if you ever get to the bottom, you get a prize, but that prize has been there forever. No, that's cool. That's cool. And look, tell me about these benefit concerts, because you've done loads, and you've done concerts with pretty well-known people. Yeah, it's really crazy. It's absolutely crazy. Well, what happened was, I just, I had no idea. I kind of
there's a show in the States called the Beverly Hillbillies, and I used to, tell people I was just bumbling, and I was just, bubble, because I was just learning as I was going along. I wrote the poem, and then I decided, at this point in my life, if I'm not going to live up to the words that I wrote down at this poem, then I'm never gonna, after the events of 9/11 and all that.
And that's the 9/11 poem, yeah? The 9/11 poem that you wrote,
and I thought, let me try to live up to these words. It's easy to say a bunch of things, then, people don't live up to it, and it's kind of, maybe a little bit hypocritical, but we almost accept hypocrisy in our society, so nobody would fault me. But then I would fault myself at this point in my life, because I travel all over the world. I knew what I was saying was true, because I had been all over as a musician, and I knew that I knew that music brought something very special to the table in terms of healing people, helping people, serving a purpose other than, selling alcohol and tickets or things like that. It has a place beyond that. And I wanted to explore the beyond, the things that all these great artists gave us, from the great jazz musicians to, the great classical musicians, all of them. So I started doing benefit concerts in New York, thinking there's probably at least a handful of good causes in New York City. I had no idea there were over 60,000 nonprofit organizations. Yeah, just in New York.
Wow.
That doesn't mean they're all, what they say they are, but they're all registered, and the bottom line is they're all over the world. So I started, hey, let's go to so-and-so, and we started getting calls from people in lots of places, whether it was India or Nepal or Africa or Pakistan, and we just started going there.
Wow. And so if anyone's listening to this and you need to drag Rick all the way across to Australia to play in a benefit concert for yourselves, just go on jazzforpeace.org, get in touch. You're going to have to fit them in your busy schedule, Rick. But yeah, no, you'd be happy to come over.
They can send us an email at info@jazzforpeace.org. And basically, this is what people do. They'll send an email to info@jazzforpeace.org. Someone did it today, for example, and he said, here's my comment, because what we do is we grow an empowerment tree for your outstanding cause based on your comment, just your honest little comment about our program. And that we call a seedling. And what we do is we look at the comment and say, wow, that person, not only is it a beautiful comment, but it's all true. Everything he said is true, So we take that comment and we put it into a one page that we go back and forth a little bit to make it perfect. Then he can share that with his board members, with his supporters, with other people, his friends, and they can all make their comment and comment list. Guess what that is? It's a VIP list. And those people get the red carpet treatment at the event. Those are the most important people. So now we've got that. Those are the roots of the empowerment tree. So that's the roots. With those roots, our slogan, help us plant the roots so we can grow your empowerment tree. With those roots planted, now that we have those VIP names and comments, now we can confirm the event, we can confirm the date, we can confirm the city, and we can start the other work to get a venue, to get local sponsors for them in their, in their town, get publicity and awareness in the media, get larger sponsors, get new and prestigious supporters, and share all of our knowledge. We have 20 years, over 850 events. We must have learned something from all these great organizations. Well, we did, We have stuff we learned. See, not too many people can say, well, I have a fundraising tip from the Red Cross. I have a fundraising tip from Habitat for Humanity. But we do, because we work with them and they showed us why they're so successful. Their little fundraising tips that they use at these events. So now we can share that with your organization, and we can decide together which one of these will work for your event. All this knowledge you take with you. We're all about a helpful step forward. And now we feel like we helped all the people in your outreach. So if you're an outstanding cause from, helping kids, we feel like we're helping all those kids,
Yeah, no, exactly. No, you're just doing fantastic stuff out there, and you're unstoppable, Rick. You're unstoppable. Like there is so much you're doing into schools, the benefit gigs, and stuff like that. Like, what are the future plans for Jazz for Peace? What have you got coming up? What are you doing?
Well, one of the biggest things that we're doing right now is this whole situation now with freedom of speech and, all these things. I mean, these are very important rights. And we're concerned that if these rights get taken away, it's going to be a nail biter to try to get them back. So you want to protect these rights before they get taken away. And it's a big thing. See, here's the thing. A lot of the times we're working on something, nobody realizes how big it is until after the fact. Okay. You have to decide what we think is a big deal. Nobody else does. And then after the fact. So for example, once I did that poem, one of the things I asked my manager to do was I said, look, can you just call over the United Nations and tell them that I want to do a performance there with Israeli, Palestinian, and American jazz musicians, Well, she thought I was a little bit nuts, but she followed my advice.
I can imagine. She's
but then we did it.
How am I going to do this?
Right. And then even after we did it, a lot of people didn't. But years later, people looked at it and said, you know what? That was an important culture, blah, blah, blah. They realized it after. So that's the thing. We're doing stuff that we think might be important in the future. And one of those things is we're up to like over 80 performances. One of them was today on your show, as you know.
Yes, God.
And that was something, the 81st or 82nd. I don't even know what we're up to. I'd have to look at the list, but we're in the 80s. We're getting near 100. And to give you an idea, after the 36th performance, and I'm not going to credit just me because a lot of people are in on it. Roger Waters of Pink Floyd is involved. A lot of big names, a lot of people. From Edward Snowden to I don't know. There's a bunch of Rand Paul.
Too many.
There's too many, and we're all on the same team. Whether we're on speed dial is another ballgame, but we are wanting this to happen. And after the 36th performance, coupled with everyone else's screaming and yelling, the New York Times did put out a release and say, we are joining the movement to free Julian Assange. This is not right. We've got, and then they brought in 5 other major news outlets. And I've noticed I don't know. I hope there's strength in numbers because, as I keep going, I do notice more people paying a little bit more attention to, hey, wait a minute, maybe we should reconsider, losing our right to freedom of speech and some of these things here and, consider this movement here, like, putting our 2 cents in and saying, hey, we want this straightened out here, too.
Yeah, look, I agree with you. I think freedom of speech is so important. And if we start to restrict that, then we're walking into a whole world of problems. But in a way, I don't want to restrict it, but I think we need to wheedle out the things that are being spread as lies.
Well,
so there's a lot of things mistruths, right? So it's about reporting and having true freedom of speech, i.e. atrocities that are in other countries or in our own countries, right, that are happening that aren't human, that aren't nice. We're not treating people like humans, right? And we're just exploiting people.
Right. And here's an example, right? Let's say, some country doesn't like another country. It could be your country, it could be my country, it could be any country. They drop a bomb down and kill some civilians. And now nobody wants to write about it because they're afraid they're going to get thrown in jail.
Yeah.
Well,
no, exactly.
Let me tell you something. It's not going to, you don't have to be Einstein if you're in a war to say, hey, you know what? Bomb it. Maybe he's in there. Maybe he's not. Bomb the whole building because no one's going to know. They don't let anybody write about it. So you can't shoot the messenger. You can't shoot, we've had journalistic integrity to some degree or other all of my life. I don't feel like going any days without it.
Well, how would we have known about the Khmer Rouge in Cambodia and the atrocities that happened there, and various different other things that have happened in our history that have been horrendous, right? And if you don't then write about them and publicize them, how do we learn about them, and how do we stop them from happening going forward? And how do we help our children deal with the situations that they're going through? Because our world has changed, right? From when you and me were a kid,
Right.
Our world has changed, right? And it's morphed into a more complex environment. So we need to be reporting on all of this stuff.
Yeah.
We need to enable people to have an expression of themselves, right? Whether that be, I don't know, binary, trans, gay, straight, artistic interpretations, through music, through art, through clothes, through makeup, whatever, right? We've all just got to embrace us as human beings. That's, it's
and not only that, but I think we need to allow opposing voices to voice their opinion, because I often get strength from my critics, because they'll say something and I have to say, well, wait a minute, they might have been wrong about this, that, and the other, but that little point there, maybe I can pick up on that and strengthen my position by correcting that little thing they pointed out. Do you know what I mean? So you can't just silence everybody. I also like to know what the other side is doing and saying. So if, I don't want you to shut them down, then I don't know what they're doing and don't know what's going on. I think it's, you have to have, what else we need? Checks and balances. Because if you don't have checks and balances, it's human nature. A lot of the problems are not with humans, it's with human nature. If you give somebody an opportunity and you just keep giving them the impression that they can just rob they can just, eventually they're going to stick their hand in the cookie jar and take everything. And that's not what they wanted to be in their soul. They would have, believe me, at the end of the day, they themselves would have preferred that somebody stopped them from what they couldn't help themselves from. You know what I mean? You got to have certain checks and balances.
Yeah, no, I agree. So that's what you guys have got planned for the future then, to actually defend this freedom of speech and keep moving forward with educating of children and the benefit concerts and stuff like that. Well, keep helping people. Right. You basically help people.
Yeah, well, we want to continue the benefit concert series. We want to keep the instrument donation and the educational system. But I'll tell you something. We could use more help in the educational system from the actual teachers, because what we found, and I hate to have to say this, but it's just part of, again, it's human nature. A lot of people will get in. They get themselves in as a teacher or whatever. And then instead of contacting Jazz for Peace or responding to Jazz for Peace or working with Jazz for Peace, my friend over here, if I give him that opportunity to come in and do, then he'll give me that, I'll do that. They start playing politics with each other. Do you know what I mean? And they don't bring in, something that is above and beyond. Do you know what I mean? Now the children are only having access to their own teachers,
They need to, I think it's good, and it happens quite a lot here, actually. They're very good here, are actually bringing in external factors and external people to the schools to actually bring them in and actually go from there. So it's pretty good. So look, where can, I know we've mentioned your website, but let's do it again because you're everywhere, aren't you? So it's jazzforpeace.org is where people can go, but then there's links off of jazzforpeace.org that basically they can then go and look at the educational series and what the other stuff that you're doing. Yes. Am I right?
So what I would suggest, go to jazzforpeace.org, have a look around, watch a couple of things. There's one, we try to give you the most bang for the least amount of time. So one video is called How to Get a Grant in 3.5 minutes. It's only 3.5 minute video. You can watch that video in 3.5 minutes, send us an email at info@jazzforpeace.org and get real specific. Say, look, this is what I thought of your program, and I'd like to know about this. I'd like to know, we have a school, we'd like to know about the education series, or we have, kids that need instruments, or we have, an outstanding cause, whatever it is. And now we can work together, giving them just the exact things that they need. Don't get me wrong. We love when people just, have a ball and, take time. But like I said, you can go there, see a little thing, and then go there. Now, there are other things you can do that are fun. If you want to have fun, you could type into Google my name, Rick DellaRatta, and put famous quote. And for whatever reason, I have a famous quote on the internet.
What's your famous quote?
The quote is, if we fill our souls up with creativity, artistry, humanity, intellectuality, things of that nature, we will have a better chance at avoiding the behavior that leads to destruction. I said it off the top. Yeah, you know what? I said it again. That's like my improvisation. I just said it in an interview off the top of my head. But the interview came out and the little quote got lifted, and somebody, I don't know how they did it, but somebody put it on their famous quotes page or whatever. I don't know if they all did it at once or somebody. I don't know how it happened, but I would be looking for something on the internet, and I couldn't find what I'm looking for, but I see my favorite 50 quotes of all time, and it's Einstein and, Tesla and, Gandhi. And
you?
Yeah, he put me in there. So I'm like, how did it
That's
happen?
awesome.
Yeah, and I don't know how it happened. You know what I mean? But it's on all the famous quotes website. But I mean, that's a fun thing you can do. And from there, you can go to other things. Another thing, you can go to rickdellaratta.com if you just want to see.
Oh, yes.
And a lot of what I did before Jazz for Peace is on there because, people might want to know, well, how did that happen? How did it get to there? How did that?
Well, you were a performer. Look, at the end of the day, this is not Jazz for Peace. It's not just who you are. It's a part of who you are, but you perform. Like, you perform for Jazz for Peace, but you also perform, don't you?
Well, you have to realize, I mean, if it wasn't for my career and it wasn't for the resume that you see when you go to rickdellaratta.com, nobody would have listened to me when I started, saying, I want to do this at the United Nations. I want, this senator or this congressman to come out in support of this. So, I mean, I kind of ask people to do things. And then if they say, well, who the hell are you? I say, well, that's who I am. And then they say, oh, yeah. You know what? I think I will send a nice letter to this event for this outstanding. You see what I mean? So,
Yeah, no, exactly. It's okay. Pull your influence. It's fine. Right. So that's okay. No, that's cool. And are you, I hate to say this, but are you on Instagram and Facebook and all of those areas?
I'm on them. Now, am I personally sitting around on them all day? Probably not.
I'm rubbish.
But I do, I think it's Jazz for Peace is the one you can type into Instagram to get to that.
Okay.
Facebook, there's a bunch of them because we have so many volunteers at Jazz. We have volunteers, and they can be from anywhere. And some of them would say, oh, we have to have a Facebook. Well, a bunch of them put up different Facebook pages. But I think the official one is Jazz for Peace Grant. And that's for the Facebook. Okay. But if you go to, you can easily find a Jazz for Peace page. I just don't know which volunteer is running it, But yeah, you can go on Facebook and find a lot of stuff about Jazz for Peace. Now the other one's Twitter. We're on Twitter. Well, I was on Twitter Spaces for interview.
I don't even know what that is.
And then,
oh really?
Wait a minute. Another one is LinkedIn. We are on LinkedIn, and I'm personally on LinkedIn, and some of our staff members are on LinkedIn. And you know what? That one is pretty cool because they should be contacting you for professional purposes. I don't know if they always do, but they should. It's kind of set up for that, right?
Yeah, no, exactly. So if they want to see more details on you, Rick, then they can
go to any social media platform and find.
Let's face it, they can just type in your name because I've typed in your name and got pages of information, right? So that's all they need to do. All Jazz for Peace. It's all there. It's great. So look, I have one final question for you. One final question. And it's not about music, so I'm sorry. But if you could recommend a book for my listeners, because I'm creating a big, massive list of books that have influenced my my guests, what would it be?
I was just on a podcast called Book 101.
Oh my God.
And they asked me for a book. So I just happened, I mean, there's a few books in my life, listen, I'm not going to, listen,
I've got loads.
I'll be honest with you, Dostoevsky and some of these philosopher guys, they wow me. I mean, it's just amazing what that man accomplished from a Siberian freaking, some kind of a Siberian death camp that he was in, and he with all this stuff. But this is the one on the book. Now, what I liked about this was given to me by a man. I don't know if you can see it. You probably can't. Probably can't. But anyway, It's called Another Voice Crying in the Wilderness. Another Voice Crying in the Wilderness. It's by a man named Professor Guy McPherson, and he is a climate scientist. And we gave him an award. And we were looking for an unbiased climate scientist. Now, people don't like him because the news he has isn't great. But I happen to be concerned. Listen, he hopes he's wrong. I hope he's wrong. But I think anyone who is concerned about sea ice has a right to be, because this is my opinion. If you lose that sea ice up in the Arctic, if the warming loses it, you're gonna have sunlight going directly into water. Do you know what I mean? That's a big difference than reflecting off the ice. You know what I'm saying? And it's going directly into the water. That can cause a lot of warming, and that can trigger other methane, etc. So anyway, but here's the thing. What I like about this book, it's the message. It said, listen, there's a lot of problems with the climate that we might not be able to fix. We might not be able to do anything about. But here's what we can do. We can live our lives to our fullest. We can be caring and giving. We can love one another. We can look out for each other. We can care for each other. And we can just put our best life, play a good game of life. And that's what I was already doing through Jazz for Peace. So I'm really happy about it. He's saying, irregardless of what happens with the climate, we have the right, we have the ability to react in this way. Do you know what I mean?
And I have to say, I think if we actually are nicer to each other and we actually aren't just money grabbing and, all the selfish sides of human nature, right? I'm not sure how we're going to sort this out, but maybe we can get to a point of at least making it a little bit less messed up. I was reading today and I was reading today that the polar ice caps are melting and warming up the water already, right? So they're talking about the currents in the sea starting to slow, right? And so if we actually have those currents slow, it's going to be a major impact on climate change.
Well, that's what I was talking about. And now this book is all aphorisms, and an aphorism it's just a little ditty from the top of somebody's head. And he got it from a person named Edward Abbey, who was his kind of a mentor for him. And and this guy, Edward Abbey, did a book of aphorisms, and he called it A Voice Crying in the Wilderness. So this guy called his book Another Voice Crying in the Wilderness. And at my concert, he gave me the book, and it says, to Rick, with awe, with respect, and with love, Guy McPherson. So I figured I better read this one, right?
So, defo.
You can open it up to any page. You don't have to read page by page. You can open up a page and read a couple aphorisms. You know what I mean? For example, I'm just going to do that right now. This is just random. Socrates famously concluded that the unexamined life is not worth living. I'm surprised it took 2 millennia for somebody, that's somebody being Schopenhauer, to realize that the examined life is far, far worse. So in other words, they're just little ditties that make you think, a word to the wise is unnecessary, and a word to an idiot generally falls on deaf ears. So, these are the little things that are in there, little senses like that.
No, that's cool. And people can't see this, but when you hold the book up, there's so many things that you've marked in that book. And you've got notes and stuff within there. So I can say you've definitely read it, Rick. You've definitely read it. But no, that's cool. That's cool. So look, thank you so much for coming on the podcast, giving us a little bit of culture with your jazz music. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Likewise, Claire.
Yeah, no, I wish you all the best with everything you're doing. People in Australia, if you need Rick and his Jazz for Peace, please get in contact with him. We need more instruments and we need more music in our schools, basically as well. I'm seeing my son did a performance the other day, which was great, but we need more of it because we've got to cultivate culture and arts in our schools because that's what's going to heal us in the end.
Yes, I agree.
Cool. Well, look, I will let you get on. It is evening for you, so have a good evening, and we'll speak soon.
Yes, I really do hope to make it down under someday.
Thanks for listening. If you've enjoyed this podcast and you would like to hear more, please hit subscribe wherever you like to hear podcasts. If you would like to support us further, share this episode with your friends and family. And finally, drop us a review on iTunes, as I'd love to hear your thoughts, comments, and ideas. It all helps me to understand and produce awesome content you want to hear just like this. If you want to check out our past episodes, write to us, appear on the podcast, or for links, resources, and show notes, go to our website, www.strongsingleandhuman.com. We are also on all the usual social media platforms, Insta, Facey, and Twitter. I hope you have a wonderful week, and I hope to see you back here again soon. Be kind to yourself, and remember, no one is perfect. We're all just putting one foot in front of the other and doing our best. I'm Claire Martin, and you've been listening to the Strong, Single and Human podcast.